What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Good morning and welcome to the Shred Show. You can see his bright and smiling face. You know what? When I get together with Todd, I had a couple of weeks ago, him and I were in an event together, and there's just something about a Todd Bookspan embrace. If you've never slapped hands, embraced Todd, he's one of those people for me that I just can't help but smile. I can't help but laugh. He exudes positive energy, and plus, he is always helping people. He goes out of his way. Even myself, as an originator back in the day, he was always somebody I looked up to. He was always somebody I was learning from, and he continues to lead by example. He continues to help all of us with mindset. And as the founder of Win by Noon, he's here today because our industry is in some turmoil. We're in a little bit of a lull, if you will. We're not talking doom and gloom. We want to help you. We want to help you succeed in 2022. So we're going to be getting into that. Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? Are you ready? It is time to shred. Ladies and gentlemen, I truly can't tell you how excited I am to have Todd Bookspan joining me this morning. He's an incredible friend, a longtime mentor and inspiration to myself and so many of you out there. But I'm excited to have you on, Todd. First and foremost, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. First off, I got to say thank you for having me on. It's been way too long. It was great to see you a couple weeks ago. And if I had half of your energy bottled up like that, lightning in the bottle, man, I would be unstoppable.
Oh, you are unstoppable, Todd. What's really funny is when you and I were getting ready for this and kind of chatting about it. Let's see if I can show it. I have this picture of you and I back in 2019, June 10th, 2019, pre-COVID. I wish I could show this picture better. It probably is not going to see that. There you go, right there. That's me and Todd. Look at us, man. Back in the day.
That day.
You had the shred shirt on and everything. And you and I have had such an incredible relationship over the years. Again, you've been one of those mentors and those guides to me. You continue to do so with Win by Noon. But something I want to, before we get into the whole, we're trying to help everybody. That's what the Shred Show is all about: creating value, helping everybody, helping the industry that you and I love. We've dedicated our lives to this, but I want to start with that because I don't know, sometimes people may not know this about you, but you've been in the production side of mortgage for a long time as well, and still within it. Sometimes, people see us, and people know I'm very honest with it, that I don't produce anymore. I'm still licensed loan officer, but you're still in the day-to-day mortgage production, correct?
Well, I've got a team. So I still run a team. So when I started coaching, I pulled out of the, me answering the phone and doing loans and taking 1003s and all that. But I built up a team that, really for over a decade now has averaged really just about 500 loans a year. And so the team I built, the relationships I built are still out there, and I still lead that team. And so besides the fact that I have Win by Noon and I talk to realtors and originators, really every day, I do get to hear what's going on really on this street level from being involved with the team and hearing what they've got as challenges.
So now that even brings up whole even more, because that's what you and I are talking about. We're talking about challenges. And as founder of Win by Noon, we're going to get into Win by Noon a lot, because this is something that I think, especially in the times that we're in, numbers mean a lot, making sure that you're on the right track. And now we're 3 months into the year. We're past Q1. And a lot of people are starting to analyze. They're hearing of margin compression. We're hearing doom and gloom in the industry, which is a scary time. But at the same time, you have to have the right mindset. You need to be looking at the right things to make sure you're succeeding. It's not just a matter of I'm just going to do better next month, or I'm going to try harder. There's certain parameters, there's certain things, there's certain activities that we probably should be doing on a regular basis. So let's kind of start to break that down, because you have analyzed, even with your team, you can see the things that's slowing them down. You can see the things that's hindering their success. What are some of the biggest things you are seeing right now that are hindering our industry, or kind of slowing us down as originators in particular?
Well, I think it's two things right now. You mentioned mindset. I feel like you have to have this pig-headed, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do what I have to do today in order to get it done. Oftentimes people are just so overwhelmed that they are not really laser focused on, hey, these are the 10 things I got to get done before I get really, which is the other word I would use, is distracted by everything else. And so when you're crystal clear on what are the activities I need to do today, right? How many people do I need to call? How many people do I need to talk to or meet with in order for me to hit my goal at the end of the year? Then you will absolutely, come in and get things done. There was a study done by the Stratmore Group it was about 5-6 years ago, right when I started Win by Noon. But I still quote the study today because I think it's probably even worse today. But they said that 94% of loan officers show up at the office every day with no plan. Like they just show up no plan. And so I think then you're just going to react to whatever email or text message is the loudest, or you're going to talk about, what happened last week at the Oscars with, Will Smith, and you're going to go down that path versus just getting in and doing what that you've got to get done. And they said as a result, 91% of loan officers have inconsistent month over month business. And, we know that that's like, it's inherent. Like I could talk to any group of salespeople and they would all say the same thing. Like, I use that statistic with realtors all the time. And, the broker owner will be like, ha ha, guys, that's so true for you all as well. And in the end, it's just this whole idea of, it's going to be a hard year. I'm never a doom and gloom guy. I think, my kids tell me I got a shirt and a hat that says, half full, right? I'm an optimist. I always believe that's the case. However, I continue to talk to people who've been in the business, a lot of brand new people, right? 41% increase in licensees last year over year. So we've got a lot of new people in the business. A lot of them have already left. And then we also have people who, they would say have been in the business for 15 years, right? Repeating that first year over for the 15th time. And I think those are the people that, really need to, I don't want to say look in the mirror and take notice, of what it is, but really, I think everyone has to and say, okay, what am I doing? Am I doing what I need to do today, right now, in order to drive my goal for the end of the year, which is to serve families and close more loans?
So this is, holy crap, there's so much we can dive into there. Looking ourselves in the mirror. This is one of those things that is always so difficult because, again, as mortgage professionals, real estate professionals, even if you're in sales, sometimes it's so easy, and especially in difficult times, to point the finger of blame. It's like, okay, it's not me, it's my manager. Oh, it's the tools, it's my system that I have, or it's this and that and this. It's so easy to point the finger of blame. And both you and I are very, very big Gary Vaynerchuk fans. We both have the opportunity to meet him before, but Gary has been talking a lot of his content is, when you're pointing fingers, look at the fingers pointing back at you. And I know it sounds cliche, but taking a look in the mirror right now, and you and I we're both half glass, glass half full. I'm always optimistic. Like I always want to try to see the best. And especially in times like now, you and I both have the mentality of like, hey, when we're going into a downturn, when we're going into a lull, if you will, now's the time to step up and just dominate. There's opportunity more than anything in these type of times. It's just whether or not you're willing to go out and take advantage of those, is whether or not you're willing to put in the work now, whether you're willing to show up, hustle, repeat every day to really get ahead of the rest. So what are those practices? And again, Win by Noon kind of starts to break it down. Numbers are a big factor. The fact it's so funny you talk about that Stratmore. I've heard that same study. I've seen those numbers and it baffles my mind. But you and I both know, you and I have been in this business long enough and we've been into enough offices that so many originators, so many professionals, they have no idea what they're doing. Like they'll walk in and be like, oh, well, I got to deal with my pipeline, I guess, but they don't have a plan. And I think planning, if you really, fail to plan to fail. We all have heard it, but that's like, it rings so true. And especially in times like these. So how do we overcome that? How do we start to break through that?
Well, it's funny. I'll always tell the story about it, right? So when I was originating full time, I was doing pretty well. I mean, I was closing 400 units a year, about $80 million, 3 years in a row. And it was great income and it was serving a lot of families and I had a great team. However, I'd written down my business vision and my business vision said I'm a $100 million producer. And I did what I wasn't doing consistently at the time, which was I sat down and I just looked back. I just reviewed. And most people look ahead, but they don't ever look back to try to figure out what lessons they can learn. And I realized that the number one difference between the days where I was really crushing all my activities versus the days where I sort of got some of them or none of them done, right? I had those great intentions in the morning, but didn't get done, were the days where I allowed someone else to schedule something for me or said yes to a meeting I shouldn't have said yes to in the morning. And then by the time I got to the office, everything was going on. Hey, can you get this pay stub? Can you follow up on this lead? And then I just could never get to those most important priorities, each day. And so I just sent out an email to my wife, who I work with, to my business partner, to my business development manager, to my assistant, said, hey, going forward, I'm blocking my calendar in 2016 for 2015, it was from 8:30 to 11:30. And I just blocked my calendar. And so what I did was I actually went and at first I hid at this burrito shop near my daughter's school or at one of the 2 coffee shops or restaurants near my office. But I got all those proactive activities done before then I would go in the office or go to the meeting and whatever it was. And unless it was something super important, right? If I got up an invitation to go speak at a, real estate sales meeting, they're not going to move their sales meeting so that I could do my activities. But ultimately what happened was that year, flat year in the Arizona real estate market, Not a refi market rates, we're pretty much the same. Increased my business almost 45%. That next year I was ranked in the top 25 for loan officers in the country for the number of loans I closed. And it was really just one decision I made, and that was just to block my calendar. And so when I became a coach, I was talking to one of my coaching clients. He's like, just coach, tell me, like, what did you do? And I walked him through what I call my ideal week, that I called leads first thing every day. I called applicants who hadn't gotten to pre-qual issued yet every single day before I did anything else. And then, had no different than a lot of other coaching organizations had different, target day activities, call, clients for updates and realtors for updates on Tuesdays, and call pre-approved clients on Wednesdays, realtors on Thursdays, so that you're not spending your weekend pre-qualifying clients. You're actually have all day Thursday and Friday to track them down. And just by doing that, blew up my business. And then when this loan officer was saying, coach, just tell me what you do. And he's like, oh, you won by noon. I'm like, all right, that sounds a whole lot better than you won by 11:30. And then, hence I took what I was already doing for myself and then made it into the product. But ultimately in the end, I think that's really it, is you have to identify what are your most important priorities. I already knew what they were, right? I knew what leads I had to call. I knew all those things. But I just wasn't consistently doing it. So if you can figure out what it is you need to do in order to get there. So now really, I think there's so many great coaching programs out there for, loan officers who can afford to spend $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month. And they basically hold you accountable. They say, hey, you got to actually, track all your results, but most of them don't actually track the activities. And so I believe if you can record your activities to say, gosh, wouldn't it be nice to know today, if I make a certain number of phone calls, then I'm pretty likely to hit my goal at the end of the year. And so it's really just a tool to help people reverse engineer. What is it that I have to do today, right? Basically, what is the quantity of activities? How many people do I have to call? How many people I have to meet with or talk to on the phone in order to get to that goal at the end of the year? And it's not that difficult if you just take the time to record the activities, track the results. And then you can be crystal clear on what you need to do. And then certainly from there, what you're going to try to do is get better relationships, better scripts, better processes and systems so that you can shrink that time down. But ultimately, what I found was, I closed over 550 loans that next year. And, the funny part about it was I really did all my activities there in that 3 hours a day. And then of course, I was calling clients afterwards and meeting with realtors and doing all the other things that we all have to do, but I didn't let myself get distracted until later in the day. And for most people, that would be a game-changing idea. If you just got the top 3 to 5 things you need to do done now before you get distracted watching me and you here on this channel.
I was going to say, that's just it. Now you're literally, as we're talking about this, because I used to do something similar. I would time block in the mornings. I found that I was the most productive in the mornings, from 8 to 11 o'clock or whatever it is. Now I'm starting to think about, like, maybe you started to change my show time. Maybe I put it in the afternoon. We want everybody to win by noon. Don't worry about what Todd and I are saying here. Maybe I change the show to later in the morning or later in the afternoon. But I want to talk about this too, because you talk a lot about consistency. You talk about tracking the numbers. Sometimes I think we get so busy, or we think that we are so busy. And you and I hear originators talk about this all the time. They're like, oh, well, I've got so much going on. I'm so busy. When we actually sit down and we actually look at our daily activity, that's why I think tracking it and actually being able to use the Win by Noon platform is okay, how much am I actually doing? What is my daily activity? What does my daily output actually look like? When we start breaking those numbers down, we're like, wow, I guess I'm not doing as much as I thought I was, because as much as we love this thing can be a blessing and a curse, because it's like, oh, it's 9:49. I'm just going to check Instagram real quick. Oh, I'm just going to scroll through Facebook. And the next thing you know, it's 12:15. You're like, crap, it's lunchtime. Got to go do, the next thing. So I think actually tracking those daily activities and starting to see how productive of a day are we having? How many daily activities are we working on that really helps us start to build? So I guess my biggest thing right now too is, I know you've seen it time and time again with top producers. And I know these are the activities that top producers are utilizing. You and I know so many great top producers within the industry that you talk with them all the time. But what is it for all those who are maybe struggling right now? For those who, again, we're not doom and gloom, but for those who are, maybe on that 5 loans a month, they're trying to break through that 5 to 10. I always tell people that's the hardest, that 5 to 10. Once you crest that 10 loans a month, then things start to pick up. You start to feel, what are those daily activities? You talked about calling leads. You talked about this time blocking. What should they be focused on? And my big question too here is, I was in a group just the other day, and people have been saying, well, the industry's evolving. The industry's changing. Calling leads and doing the things of old are not practical anymore. What are your, is that true? Has the industry changed so much that, that these ways of old are not even relevant anymore?
I guess I'm fascinated by that one because, in the end, how are you going to convert a lead unless you can communicate with them? And granted, sometimes
Yeah.
you're communicating now via text, or maybe you're doing it through, some social channel. But for the most part, you're going to build relationship and build that loyalty that you want, and that really that ongoing business beyond year one, loan one, by actually connecting with your client. And I don't think there's, millennial, Gen X, Gen Z, whatever you are, there's no better way to do that than actually get someone on the phone, let them hear your voice, let them connect with you, ask the questions, right? When you're taking the 1003 and they're like, oh, I just moved here from Pennsylvania. I'm like, oh, awesome. Hey, you know what? I grew up outside of Philadelphia. Where were you? Right? Hey, I got 2 kids. Oh, awesome. Boys or girls? Oh, I got a boy and a girl. Oh gosh, you know what? I only have three kids. They're all daughters. So I don't know how to do that boy thing, right? Those conversations where you can connect with people. I think connections matter more now than ever, especially coming out of the health situation where people really want to connect more now, I think, than ever. And so I feel like that's the piece of it. Someone said the other day that they felt like this was setting up to be 1994 all over again in the mortgage business, which was supposedly one of the hardest years ever. Well, I don't know. I wasn't in the business in 1994, but I don't really care. I don't care. All we have is the market that we're in. And all we have to do is figure out how can we thrive in the market. And really, in the end, it's probably calling and talking and meeting with more people, right? In the end, that's how you're going to build the relationships. But you have to figure out, how do I get either out of this space, or how do I put myself in front of them, or how do I figure out who to call and get that list? And so that's really what I've been focused on, really for the last, well, I mean, since I started Win by Noon, but really more so, I'm really doubled down since the beginning of the year on, how do we help people figure out how to make those calls? How do we script those calls? And then how do we get excited about it, right? Be the glass half full. We had Renee Rodriguez on the Mortgage Coach Call on Tuesday, Dave Sauge and I, and Renee said that, someone came up with a script at one of his amplifies, and it was something like, are you ready to take advantage of the new high interest rate market? And I thought to myself, like, that's a crazy thing to think about, right? That's exactly opposite of what everyone else is saying. But I'm like, well, why wouldn't you try to take advantage of this market? And in the end, I still feel like there's so many people that are scared to pick up the phone. I feel like there's so many people who are scared to talk to a realtor. They're scared to talk to their client they pre-approved a month ago because now rates are higher, and they got to tell them, hey, you don't qualify for 400,000 anymore. You only qualify for 320. But these are conversations we have to have. I mean, this is what you were groomed for, to be in this business, because of the fact that, your heart is in the right place. You want to help people. And I think, the reason that you do what you do, Josh, and I do what I want, is because we want people to thrive in this business, right? We want people to actually, it is the world's greatest industry, right? We get paid. Someone said that you get paid like a surgeon. I think it's what Renee said, that you get paid like a doctor, right? Think about that. For the most part, there's not a lot of loan applications you take where the person actually makes more money than you make as a successful originator. And that's a huge gift. And I think this is just going to be one of those markets that the people who stay disciplined, stay focused, figure out what they need to do each day, are the ones who are going to thrive. And that's why you and I do what we do. And that's what I'm really, really passionate about. I think the people who are doing, who did 100 million last year, if they do 80 million, guess what? They'll still be doing okay. But the person who's brand new, or only did 20 or 30 loans last year, that's the person that I'm worried about. And that's really where I've been spending my time, with the trainings and stuff like that I'm doing.
And that's just it. I would tell everybody listening, if you fit into that bucket that Todd is talking about, if you're kind of struggling right now, if you need help, reach out to Todd, reach out to Win by Noon and say, hey, you know what? Most of us have had success. We've experienced it enough. They're like, hey, I have that drive. I have that passion, but maybe I talk about the 1% a lot, Todd. It's just a 1% changes. That's all it takes. Like, you don't have to become 90% better tomorrow. You just have to become 1% every single day, getting 1% better, finding those little inefficiencies, getting 1% more efficient every single day. And Win by Noon can start helping you see those things, like start tracking it, start seeing those numbers, saying, hey, maybe I wasn't doing as much as I could have been. Maybe I need to be more efficient with my times in the morning. Time blocking, you and I both, when I was an originator like you too, when I was closing, those 20, 30 loans a month, I was just like, hey, efficiency was everything. I was time blocking in the mornings. I was seeing that. So I really think that as originators, especially those who are maybe struggling a little bit, who are worried about it, it's getting in that right mindset. It's getting in that right frame of mind to start putting in the daily activities, to time blocking. So I would tell everybody to what you just said, Todd, if you are in that category, if you're in that group right now, reach out to Todd, reach out to Win by Noon, and let them kind of help you guide. Because we want to see, you've said this a couple of times, Todd, and you and I both have such a love and an admiration for this industry. We want to see everybody succeed. We don't want to see people fall out. We don't want to see some of these people go to different careers, because many of the people here, they know the business, they know, they have the knowledge. It's just putting the right practices in place to create that consistency. You and I have both talked about that so many times. You've got to create that consistency. As we start to wrap things up, Todd, this has been incredible. Even myself, like I'm even thinking on the shred side, as we create content, as we do what we do, I'm like, hey, we need to be better. We need to be more efficient at this. I need to be better at time blocking and these things. But what going into for anybody struggling, what's one thing you've given us so many little things, so many little nuggets, dude, like literally you said so many things today that I'm like, hey, take that. But what's one thing that you could give people right now to kind of guide them? Whether it's, from putting in the block and tackling, whether it's putting the right practices, what's one thing fundamentally wise that you can give them today that's going to say, all right, I got to go start doing this?
All right. So let me give a quick pitch first and I'll talk about that. So I did just launch off my, it'll be the last group I'll do. I may do one in Q4, but probably not till Q1 next year, but I'm doing a 12-week group training program. It's designed for people who are struggling to consistently close 5 loans a month. About 40% of the people in my group are brand new.
Nice.
33% of the people are been in the business for a long time, just not consistently closing that. And the crazy one is I have 27% of the people in there that are closing over 5 loans a month consistently. And most of them are closing over 100 loans, a couple $100 million producers in the group. And so its pricing is tiered. It starts at $99 for a month for 3 months. If you're brand new. It's WBN for Win by Noon operating system.com. So check that out, because I think it's a great opportunity where I just will, over the next 12 weeks, walk you through really all my systems, processes, scripts that I use to build my team and how I've coached many of the other top leaders in the industry to do so. But what I would say, going back to what's your one thing I would do? So someone who's like, well, I need more realtor relationships, right? I mean, that's just super easy. That's just an easy phone call of, hey, Josh, it's Todd Bookspan. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing awesome. Hey, you own a house, right?
Yeah, I do.
Hey, do you use a realtor when you bought it?
Yes, I did.
Awesome. Hey, did you like them?
They were okay.
They were okay. Like what didn't they do that you thought could have been better?
I just felt like I did a lot of the work, and they helped a little bit. They showed us a couple houses, but I think they could have been more involved with the process.
Oh yeah. I totally understand. That's the same thing for us when we bought our last house. Would you mind though? I'm trying to meet some new realtors. Would you mind introducing me to them?
Oh yeah, sure.
Awesome. Hey, what would be the best way? Can you just maybe text them and text me in the same chain and just introduce, and that way I can just follow up with them and see if I can't figure out how to help them be more successful?
Yeah, of course. I'll put you on a group text.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Josh.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Todd.
Right. So, I mean, pick it up, right? Last year, your script was to call them and do a mortgage review because you could have helped them do a refinance. Well, now you're probably not going to be able to get a refinance out of them at this rate, unless they're carrying debt. But ultimately, everyone who owns a house probably knows a realtor. And if you need to meet realtors, the best way to do it is with a warm introduction, even if they're mediocre, like Josh's person. I was hoping he said that they rocked, and I'd be like, awesome, I got to meet them, right? And if they're like, oh, my best friend's a realtor, say, hey, awesome. Hey, can the 3 of us go to lunch, right? I mean, that's just the way to do it, right? Do the ride along and bring them along. But in the end, people who know real estate agents, and the number one question I'm being asked right now is, who am I going to call? What am I going to say is obviously the next thing. But in the end, really, it's just get the conversation going first, and then I'll teach you the rest of it later.
See, it's those little nuggets, Todd, just sharing that one. Like, I'm just like, yeah, you're just trying to get a conversation. You're going back to what you said, building that trust, that confidence, having those relationships. Like, that's what starts to separate you from sometimes we start to think so big, and we need to have this monumental shift in our business. But those are the type of conversations. Those are the ones that start to make a difference. Those are the introductions that start opening doors for us to have the right conversations with realtors or referral partners or whoever it is. That's why you guys, again, this is, I'm so glad that Todd pitched it, and everybody knows I never endorsed anything like this, but I totally endorse Todd. Like, I don't get a cut of anything. I believe in Todd. I believe in Win by Noon. I know that as an originator myself, these are the practices that help me get to those 10, 20, 30 plus loans a month. You have to start with the right mindset. You have to start putting those in practice now. Take Todd's offer. Go, everybody, right now. If you're in that spot, you're struggling, whether you're 5, 10, or whatever, he's got top producers in there. You can learn from Todd and others. So go take advantage of that. We'll put the link in the chat below so you guys can go click on it. You can go straight over there because we want to see you guys win by noon. That's it.
Heck yeah.
You're absolutely brilliant, man. I appreciate you coming on, sharing everything you have. There were so many little nuggets that you shared that people can walk away with, even if they don't take advantage, which all of you should, that they can win by noon. So I appreciate you being with us, brother.
Hey, you know what? I love it. I mean, we could talk all day. It's I
Good.
love seeing what you're doing. Keep on pouring on the industry. We need you, Josh. And I'm just
Oh, thanks,
super
man.
grateful for the time, and it's great to see you.
It's always good to see you, my friend. Like I said, I always have a smile when I'm hanging out with Todd. I always have this just incredible smile. You exude so much confidence and so much. You're always willing to share and to give back to our industry. So I appreciate you guys. With that, as always, we appreciate you. We love you. Now it's time for all of you guys to go shred, go show up, hustle, repeat every day, and win by noon.